And I noticed in the papers there's a field day coming up, I think it's tomorrow, up to Craigieburn, looking at wilding trees.
That's
Tell us
right.
a bit about that, no?
There is, up to Craigieburn, and they're trying to control contorta pine. That's an area which I know well because I planted half the trees that are spreading up there. But we won't go into that. But most people would be familiar with that, where they're spreading over the main road there heading up to Arthur's Pass. And if we head further south talking about roads, we've got the road that goes up to Mount Cook, and there at the start of it there's a lot of contorta pine spreading to the extent that it's not only submerging farmland, it's also blocking off tourist views across the lake and up to Mount Cook. And there's a plan underway there, both there and in the Flock Hill one, to control that. And just to take one more, if we go to our icon tourist town, Queenstown, the back of Queenstown is covered with wilding Douglas fir, and people wouldn't want to change that. It's the backdrop they're familiar with, and they were there to stop rocks rolling down the hill, avalanches, etc. But if you look across to the other side of the lake, Cecil, Walter Peak, and the Remarkables, they have no trees on them, and that would really change that scenery. Wildings are getting there, and they're removing them now, but most people do not want that to change. So okay here, but not wanted over there.
So notice some of the pictures over the back in the displays here, Nick, even had conifers looking up at Mount Cook, so some people like them.
Oh yes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, Miles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we're wanting to control these conifers, Nick, are they going to be easy to control or not?
Well, if there's a lot, like where we're going up tomorrow to Flock Hill, no, it's a big job. But by and large, if we compared these things, we'll say, with gorse and broom, they're a lot easier to control. They're very obvious. Now that tree is 3 or 4 years old. It will be, this species will be at least 10 or 11. It'll be as tall as this tent before it starts coning. So we've got all that time to get rid of it. In addition, these things are very predictable. We know when they will produce cones because they're very regular with that. We know where they'll go because they have that seed with a wing on it that we had here before, and they're only dispersed by wind. And of course that'll go downwind, so we know what direction it'll go. And we also know that it won't establish in well-farmed land or well-vegetated land. They'll only establish in lightly vegetated, lightly grazed land. So if a thing is predictable, almost by definition, it's manageable. So yes, if we get onto them in time, that's what it's all about.
And what if I was a landowner in North Canterbury, and I wish I was, Nick, and I had a few pines coming up out on the rough slopes out the back, should I be worried about it? What should I be doing about it?
You should be trying to get rid of those lone trees you see before they cone. And it's all about that. And I'll give this cone to anybody out there that can work out what that means. So what does it mean, Miles? It means stitch in time saves 9. Sits 9, that's what wilding control is all about. If we can get out there, remove this before it seeds, then we're saving ourselves at least 9 times as much more work than if we allowed it to seed. So that's almost the motto for wilding control. Sits 9, stitch in time, saves 9.
And Nick, with your work, how are you helping landowners address this problem?
Well, 3 years ago I was asked to do some work for Molesworth Station, and the work on wildings, and that work I could see would not only be useful on Molesworth but would be useful throughout the country. So we went and formed a group called the South Island Wilding Conifer Management Group, and that involves DOC, farmers, forest and bird, regional councils, district councils, forest companies, all the major people that are involved with or have problems with wildings. And the number one objective of that is promotion, awareness. Because if we can get farmers, particularly farmers, aware of what that means in terms of potential spread, if they know there's a problem, they'll work on it. If they don't know there's a problem, they won't. And a few years ago I went to a farmer's place that had a whole lot of trees about twice this size on his property, and he was a bit bigger actually because the sheep used to get shade under them, and he used to have his lunch under them. And I said to him, now those trees are about 10 years old. Within 5 years they will have a lot of spread around them. And he asked me to explain that further, which I did. A month later they were gone. All those trees were gone. Once you realised there was a problem, fixed it. So awareness is number one. We're also looking at risk, and in these maps here, we just hold those up. This is some maps that we've produced. If you hold that up there, Miles, that map there, we've got Lake Coleridge up by your thumb, and all that pink shows areas that are susceptible to wilding spread. And that's worked out from the amount of grazing, the amount of vegetation cover there is there. So that's what's susceptible to wilding spread. It's a big area. But if we look at this one here, hold that alongside, same map, doesn't have half the pink on it. The reason for that is you won't get spread where there's no source. This one actually has the sources marked on it, so that's where you're liable to get the spread occurring down through here. So those are the areas that farmers would have to be particularly aware of. That's why we're right into prevention. A little book like that we've produced called Wilding Prevention. Because if we're aware of that, there's no risk of these spreading further into these other pink areas here. So it's number one, it's awareness, it's risk assessment, and it's control, and we'll talk about control in a minute.
Yep. So if you're out on the farm and you see a few trees, large or small, what should you be doing about it? What sort of control techniques are feasible, Nick?
Well, there's a lot, and I know you and your little pack, Miles, carry around one of these, little wee silky jackknife saw, superb little tool that. And I know the musterers on Molesworth Station now carry these. So being aware of wildings, they see one like that, and they'll get out with that little saw and use it. But we've got this wilding prevention booklet, and we've just produced the next grade up, which is this one here, the wilding control. And inside there, if you hold that, is actually a picture of our photographer right there, but if you hold, whoops, no, we'll go back to this one here. If you hold that open, up across here we've got wilding control toolbox. So these are all the various tools that could be used for wilding control. Burning, grazing, fertilising, hand pulling, tools, loppers, etc., like that little saw here, ring barking, chainsaw, scrub bar, mulcher, digger dozer, and then chemicals. So there's a whole lot of tools there, and certain trees, certain densities, certain heights, these tools are better. So this is designed for a farmer. When you get that better land of yours, Miles, you can look up in here and sort out which tool is best for controlling wildings on your place. So that's that booklet there, which will be on our website. And while I've got this up here, I'll just mention that for this sort of material and for anything to do with wildings, we have a very good website, and that is www.wildingconifers.org.nz, proving extremely popular, the only wilding website in the world, I guess. And that's one of our major awareness tools.
Nick, quite often when I'm hearing people controlling conifers, they talk about this little thing called no green needles. What on earth does that mean?
What that means is that it's very common, and I don't have to use this prop again, I don't think. You've got your secateurs here? No, you haven't, no. So if you just hold that in there, just fold that in, Miles, and we'll pretend we're getting rid of this thing. So there it is, and perhaps there's grass up to this height, and we've got a little loppers, and we've come along, and it's nice and convenient to lean down and chop that off there. That is a waste of time. Within 1 year, all these will have stood up and they're starting to grow. You can just leave one piece on that stump like that and it will grow. So that's why they say no green needles. You have to remove all the green needles from the base. They can't come away then, but if you leave any green needles, they can come away.